Lake Marvin sits quietly in the piney woods of East Texas, just a few miles north of Atlanta, a small town most people only drive through on the way to somewhere else. The lake isn't particularly big or beautiful. It doesn't have the shimmering blue water you see on postcards or picnic spots where families grill hot dogs. It's muddy, deep, and surrounded by thick, gnarled woods that seem to hold on to mist long after the morning sun comes up. People don't really swim there. The locals say it's not safe. Not because of alligators or snakes, though there are those too, but because of the lights. They call them the Lake Marvin lights. No one agrees on what they are. Some say it's swamp gas. Others swear they're headlights from the highway bouncing off something just right. But the ones who grew up around here, the old-timers, the ones who lost friends or kin out by the water, they'll just shake their heads and mutter, "Ain't no light you want to follow." I didn't believe any of it when I first heard the stories. I was born and raised in Dallas, but when my uncle died, he left me his cabin out near the lake. It was one of those inheritance things that come with stipulations. Stay in the house for 6 months before you sell it. I was fresh out of a job and not exactly winning in life, so I figured, why not? Free rent, some quiet time, and a chance. To figure my crap out, the cabin was old, but livable. Smelled like cedar and dust. The back porch faced the lake, about 50 yards from the edge, with a narrow dirt path leading down. My uncle had left behind an old fishing rod, a fridge full of beer, and a shoebox of photographs. Mostly grainy snapshots of the lake. Some fishing trophies and a few people I didn't recognize. One photo caught my eye. It was taken at dusk, showing the lake under a pink sky. Floating above the water were 2 faint glowing orbs, one red and one blue. At first, I thought it was a camera glitch, but the longer I stared, the more I realized those lights weren't reflections or lens flares. They looked like they were moving. You could almost see the blur of motion in the photo, like they were dancing. The first week passed quietly. I walked the woods, read some old books, drank beer. At night, the woods filled with the usual country sounds, frogs, crickets, owls. But on the 6th night, I woke up to something else, a humming. Low and metallic, like a power line buzzing in a storm. It was just past midnight. The cabin windows were rattling faintly. I stepped outside and everything felt wrong. The woods were silent, not just quiet, dead. Not a single chirp, not a single rustle. Then I saw it, 2 lights floating above. The lake, one red, one blue, moving slow, almost like they were pacing each other. Not flickering like fire, not beams like flashlights, just hovering. I stood there for a minute, transfixed. I wasn't afraid yet, just confused, curious. They began to move toward the shore. Not fast. Just gliding, soundless, straight toward the cabin. The hairs on my neck rose, and some animal part of my brain finally kicked in. I went back inside, locked the doors, and sat in the dark with the shotgun I'd found in my uncle's closet. The lights stopped just at the tree line, hovered there for a while. Then, one by one, they blinked out. The next morning I told myself it was a dream, but I checked the porch. Muddy footprints, not mine. Bare human, but wrong, toes too long. No heel marks. Like someone had glided forward and only pressed down with their front feet. I tried calling some locals, folks whose numbers I found in my uncle's notebook. Most didn't pick up. One old man, Hank, agreed to meet me at a diner in town. He was wiry, sun-leathered, and barely touched his coffee. When I told him what I saw, he went pale. "Don't look at them," he said. "That's how they get in, through your eyes." I asked what they were. He wouldn't say. Just muttered something about echoes and wrong reflections. He told me my uncle had seen them too. Started acting strange near the end. Talking to people who weren't there. writing letters to someone named Ellen, a name no one in town recognized. He said the letters stopped making sense, just pages of strange symbols and drawings. I asked if he had any. He shook his head, burned them. Fire's the only thing that clears him out. I didn't sleep that night. I kept the shotgun next to me and every light on. Around 2 a.m., the lights came back, closer this time, right outside the window. I closed my eyes. I remembered what Hank said about not looking. But the humming, it grew louder, vibrated in my bones. I started to sweat. My vision pulsed even behind my lids. Then, a knock on the door, light, delicate. I didn't move. Another knock, then a voice. A woman's, soft, familiar, let me in. I almost answered, almost, but I knew that voice. It was my mother's, and she'd been dead 3 years. I waited, held my breath until the humming stopped and the footsteps drifted away. Come morning, I packed a bag. I was going to leave. I didn't care about the inheritance. I drove straight to the only motel in town and begged for a room. I was shaking, half delirious, but the woman at the front desk didn't even ask questions. She just handed me a key and said, "Room 3's got the least noise." I crashed hard, woke up at sunset. My phone was full of static-filled voicemails, long, hissing. Recordings with faint voices whispering my name. I threw it in the trash. I went back to the cabin only once after that. I needed to grab a few documents, my laptop, and some family photos. When I pulled up, the front door was open. Inside, the house was ice cold, and the floor was wet. Not just damp, soaked, like someone had dragged a river through. The walls were covered in new photos. Black and white, hundreds of them, pinned up like a serial killer's lair. Each one showed the lake, the lights, people walking into the water, heads down, eyes closed. One of them was my uncle. The last photo made my stomach flip. It was of me, standing on the porch, staring at the lights. I never took that photo. I never posed for it. But it was me, down to the scar on my cheek. Left the house and didn't lock the door. I didn't even close it. I drove straight to Dallas and never looked back. The land went up for sale 6 months later. No buyers. The real estate agent went out there to take pictures. She never came back. They found her car at the edge of the woods, door open, engine still running. No signs of struggle. Just a trail of footprints leading down to the lake. Bare, human, toes too long. I don't tell this story often. People laugh. They say it's just a campfire tale. But I see things sometimes, reflections in windows that don't match what's in the room. I don't keep mirrors anymore. And I never, ever look at lights I can't explain, especially if they're red and blue.